Hello, Internet. Mike Byrne here from MMOBomb.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. And today we're going to do a first look on Aliens Fireteam Elite. Now, the game is available now. You can purchase it on Steam or on your console of choice. Steam prices are $40 USD for the base edition. There's also a deluxe edition available for $69.99. that includes some of the Endeavor Pack cosmetic items, as well as the season passes that they're going to be doing going forward, which will be optional purchases then. So, if you play it and you end up liking it and you think you're going to stick with it for a little while, might not be too bad an idea to pick up the deluxe edition and save yourself a couple of bucks over the long run, but I don't know. So here's, you know what, let's just get into it. Spend 10-15 minutes giving you the lowdown on the game and my early opinions on it. I am an absolute Aliens nut. I love the franchise, whether that be the tabletop RPG, whether that be the movies, whether that be the novels, whether that be the graphic novels, comics, whatever. Even video games. I mean, obviously, anytime a new Aliens game is announced, I get a little apprehensive because, you know, they just haven't been all that great lately, with, you know, some possible exceptions, Alien Isolation, of course, being one of them. So when I heard about Aliens Fireteam Elite, developed by Cold Iron Studios, formerly owned by Daybreak Games, no matter what they try to do to internet scrub that little detail off of the face of the earth, I was a little apprehensive. It's a 3-player PvE Co-Op game. Now, if you've seen videos, you might think a little Left 4 Dead, and yes, there is quite a bit of genre influence from that type of horde-based gameplay. A lot of the core gameplay loop does follow that, but there's a little more permanence between the rounds as well. There's a little bit of character progression, whether that be leveling up your individual classes, of which there are 4 to start with, but completing the campaign will unlock a 5th, the Recon class for you, in addition to unlocking more extreme difficulty versions. So beating through the campaign once is going to be your primary objective initially. If you don't have 2 friends to play with and you don't want to group up with 2 random people, you can technically play the game solo, but you'll be with 2 bots. And that'll probably service you pretty well unless you're just really, really not acclimated to shooters like this, third-person shooters like this. The bots are serviceable in the standard difficulty, so they'll get you through the story. However, you don't want to be doing like the intense or extreme difficulty levels with the bots. You're going to have to find some friends or be willing to queue up with random strangers. So, jumping in the game, we've got a third-person shooter, WASD movement if you're playing with a keyboard, and typical shooter controls with your mouse. Left trigger fires, right trigger goes down sights, etc., etc. If you're playing on consoles, all those things are typical to your controller mapping. You could play on PC with a controller if you want. It is supported as well. Don't forget that there is a ping system in the game. Many people forget it. Absolutely vital at the higher difficulties. It's a very minimal ping system. But as far as pinging, you know, target enemies in the Horde or different chests that are in the environment, yeah, you do want to make sure that you do that. That is by default right middle mouse button if you're playing on PC. You can change that in your keybinds. Now, the story of Fireteam Elite takes place about 23 years after the original trilogy. So Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, 23 years go by, boom, Aliens Fireteam Elite. So Resurrection hasn't happened yet. So it's a bit weird, you know, how do we get that storyline, right? In Alien 3, Ripley throws herself into the furnaces in the prison and takes the queen with her, and so all's well that ends well, right? Well, you know, maybe not. It appears that LV-895 out on a different planet, there's you know, something going on from an area that people thought didn't exist anymore. And your ship, the USS Endeavor, gets a distress call. Sounds familiar. And you're going to go check out the planet LV-895. You're going to investigate, and then you're going to find, hey, it's been overrun by xenomorphs. And yeah, the fun starts. Now, if you're playing this game, you want to think more Aliens than Alien. If you're looking for that tension, that just suspense, you know, of the original Alien film, the first Alien film, go play Alien Isolation. If you want a little more action being a colonial marine, going in, knowing what you're dealing with now, right? The xenomorphs at this point in history aren't an unknown entity anymore. So the Marines would know how to deal with these things, would be willing to go to these places and try and take them out. It's not a mystery anymore. And Alien's Fireteam Elite really picks up on that. These things aren't a mystery. And yeah, as an Alien fan, it does feel, maybe a little disappointing, although there is a wide variety of enemies to be fighting here, even in the xenomorph types, whether those be the drones that come flying at you in massive waves, or different crushers, or bursters, or spitters, that have all different attack patterns, different strengths, different critical spots, different resistances. Yeah, it can be a little daunting when you get a whole horde around you, but no more daunting than if you were playing Left 4 Dead and you got a horde with an unfavorable spawning of the particular enemies in that group for you and your teammates. You don't really fear them because they're aliens. You fear them in the same way you fear zombies in a zombie horde game, because it's a horde and, it could spawn the wrong combination for your team's makeup. Now, you have a bit of character customization at the beginning of the game. Nothing to really write home about. You get to pick from a couple different templates of faces and hairs and things like that, hairstyles, things like that. But you're going to start by picking your class. You'll have one of 4, and the classes themselves are what decides your basic skill set. So whether you will give everybody on your team a buff to their weapons for a certain period of time by using the gunner, whether you'll be Doc, which is this version's game of medic, and be able to set down a healing area for a little while. Each will have its own little abilities, and by beating the campaign, you'll, of course, unlock that 5th class, the Recon. But you'll also be gaining experience and 2 different currencies throughout the game. So you've got experience for your overall profile, you as the player. You have experience that is gained for your individual class that you're playing, since you can swap classes at any given time before a match is queued up. That experience is what's going to unlock that class's customization and perks and talents. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Then your weapons also gain experience. So if you're using a particular pulse rifle and you like that pulse rifle, it does benefit you to continue to use that pulse rifle. As you level it up, it will get certain star ratings, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And while the first 3 star ratings are pretty much just basic attributes being added, more damage, better firing range, things like that, the 4-star attribute on any particular weapon is usually kind of warping for that weapon. It might do additional fire modes. It might fire multiple times instead of firing once, as it has been firing the entire time. And upping the star rating does up its combat level, so your overall character's combat level, your overall class's combat level gets higher and higher, allowing you to take on more and more difficult enemies. In addition to all that experience farming, you'll be farming 2 different currencies. One's basically credits that can be used at the armory vendor to go ahead and buy weapons and things like that. And then you also get scripts or reputation scripts, which can be used to buy cosmetic. It's kind of got this feeling that, and maybe at one point it was considered, hey, we're probably going to take this free-to-play or make a free-to-play game, and then they decided not to because there's the 2 different currencies. You can't buy one. There's no microtransactions or loot boxes. It seems going forward that the DLC and the season passes that will begin roughly in November are going to be the primary monetization for the game going forward. It's just kind of weird having the 2 currencies, one strictly on in-game stat warping stuff and then one on all of your cosmetic stuff, whether that be gear for your character, whether that be skins or different stamps on your weapons or any of those types of cosmetics, emotes, stuff like that. Yeah, you farm both in-game, and they're both sold by the same vendor, but they're 2 different menus. A little bit weird. It feels like maybe a stand-in that for something that maybe they originally were going to think about free-to-play and put it in there. Or maybe they're going to do something with it in the future. I don't know. It feels a little bit weird now. But how does the game play, right? Because that's where this is going to matter. Games like Warframe, Path of Exile, stuff like that, those thrive on you wanting to do the repeated content over and over and over and over again. So how does the game play? From top to bottom, it's okay. It's okay. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Graphically, there's some issues. Now, as far as the environment, they kind of nailed it. You're going to be on ships that were going to remind you of everything you've seen in the Aliens franchise. You're going to go to ruins that obviously the engineers have built big-ass dome pieces and left them laying around for you to take a look at. You're going to be in a hive with chasing down the queen or trying to get rid of the queen alien. So all of those iconic environments are really, really close. They're really, really close. Graphical fidelity is a little lacking. It is not the top tier available right now. It is on Unreal Engine 4, but it is by far top tier graphics. So if you like the franchise, you're going to be fine with it. But I did find myself wishing there was a little bit more put into the graphical development. Sound is really hit and miss, and it is hit and miss in a big way for me. Some musical pieces, some sound effects, whether that be the pulse rifle or the on-death critical hit sound effect that pops every time you critically wound and kill a xenomorph or some of the other enemies. There are other enemies in here, synths and the Joes from some other games. There are also nods to things in the movies, particular names that show up in both movies or games. I'm looking at you, Alien Isolation. You got kind of a little nod in this game. But yeah, so sounds are great in some respects, like those ones I just listed, and then not great in some other areas, whether it be just the flamethrower sounds a little goofy to me, and there's some oddball sound effects like that. There are quite a few bugs, and your experience with the bugs may vary a little bit depending on what platform you're playing on. I was playing on PC, so I had occasional disconnects and things like that. That's to be kind of expected with an online game that launches. But just some weird bugs where smaller enemies would get actually under the floor and you couldn't kill them, or they would get trapped in the walls or in the ceiling and you couldn't kill them and you had to kill them to move on. At one point, a teammate of mine got through a door in the final campaign mission that they weren't supposed to be able to get through. It wasn't even the door we were supposed to go through, and they got stuck on the other side, and it prevented the objective door from even lighting up, let alone allowing us to go through there. So they left, the other person left, and here we are 3/4 of the way through the final campaign mission. My teammates have just left. They've been replaced with bots, but they spawned in the room that I was in, which triggered the normal campaign door to then open up. I was going to be really pissed if we didn't make it through this last mission. It's the last campaign mission to unlock the additional difficulty, the recon class, all kinds of goodies. And here I am, 20% of it to go, alone with 2 bot companions. But it did allow me to continue at least. So, yeah, there's that. Where this game does kind of do well is that addictive nature of Left 4 Dead type games. The environments look nice, but they're repetitive. There's only 12 missions in the game right now, broken into 4 acts with 3 missions per act. And it does tell a story. It's not the best story out there. It's not the worst story out there. Hey, guess what? The engineers made some goo. Weyland-Yutani and some other companies got a hold of this goo all these years later, found out the xenomorphs, found out that it warps DNA a little bit and does wacky things to create what they could possibly make soldiers out of. So let's build a secret facility and try and do research. Yeah, I mean, it's a story we've heard before, and now we're hearing it again. So there's nothing groundbreaking in the story, but the repetitive gameplay loot cycle is there to a certain extent. But it means that the environment, since they aren't procedurally generated, each mission you can chart your course through if you've done it before, right? I mean, you just know it. You just go to the next objective. It does kind of, hey, go down this corridor, go down the next corridor, go into an open room, click a thing, fight off waves. Get ambushed in the next corridor, get ambushed in the next corridor, get to an open room, make your way through it by killing these waves. Get down another corridor, get down another corridor, and on and on and on. Where the game does add variety, though, is not in its level design. Those level designs stay consistent. If you play the first mission, that's the map and the chart and the course you're going to go through anytime you play the first mission. However, the waves that you face may differ in what types of enemies spawn, depending on your power levels and your class makeup with your group, and also challenge cards. So think of these as like skulls in Halo, except they're not reusable. A challenge card, you can opt to use one in the queue up screen. Your two partners can also opt to use different ones. What will then happen is one of those 3 challenge cards will be randomly selected, used, and applied to your next run with your friends here, and the other 2 people will have their challenge cards, refunded to them. They'll stay in their inventory. But the one that's used gets consumed. These challenge cards do a myriad of things, some of which are interesting, some of them are downright annoying. I've had one that all it did was change the UI to black and white with a little higher contrast, emulating the screens of the computer or the closed-circuit cameras in some of the original movies. It was cool for about 2 minutes, and then I really wanted it to go away. Other ones have taken away the HUD entirely, or to get 200 headshots as a team all the way through, or to not die. And they all range in difficulty from that's easy and we didn't have to think about it to how the hell could that possibly be done? Completing a challenge card on your run will net you some type of reward, whether that be increases to your experience, increases to your credit gains, your script gains, something along those lines. So those are the fastest way to level up, but they are one-time use. You can, however, buy packs of 3 random ones from the armory vendor for the scripts, again, that are in-game currency only. No monetization through currency, at least not as of this recording. And that's where the variety comes in. Upping the difficulty level, because standard just gets you through the story. This is really made to be played on, like, intense difficulty with 2 friends of you and 2 friends, and throwing some challenge cards at it. That way you are gaining as much as you can. It is a super challenging, it is a super intense experience. Yes, you don't get that intensity because it's the aliens or the xenomorphs from Aliens. You get it just the same way you would in a Left 4 Dead or the upcoming Back 4 Blood titles. That same level of suspense. So what's my final verdict on this one? There's a lot that I like here. I do like these types of games. These repetitive, kind of loot grinder-ish. This isn't massively loot grindy, because when you pick a weapon, you're pretty much going to stick with it so that you can get its star rating up and up and up and make it more powerful and get its bonuses. Interestingly, by the way, when you do level a weapon, that is applied across your character. So if you level to 3 stars on the gunner, and then you flip to your doc, who you haven't played at all, and equip that weapon, it will still be 3 stars. So you don't have to level up the weapon per class. Where you do have to swap classes around is the last piece of customizable content here, and that's kind of your talents or your specs. Not only do these unlock as you level up a class, but your panel that you can lock these abilities into to get some customized gameplay out of each of these classes spaces on their unlock. So initially you might be able to equip 1 or 2 little core modifiers, but by the end, when you're at rank 6, rank 7 in a particular class, now you have an entire panel open, and based on the cores or the augments that you like or the attachments you like, you might have 10 or 12 in there. The weapons do come with their kind of customizable features too, whether that be different scopes, enhanced clips, things like that you would expect. So customizing your weapons and your talents is going to be the way to really make the class play exactly the way you want. Those aspects are well done in this game. At the end of the day, though, my final word on this one is I don't know if it's quite ready. And $40 for the base version, I think, was kind of a little bit of a big ask. You can get through the campaign of 12 missions and then open up Horde Mode and the other difficulties and everything in a few hours. And that's just playing it even with bots. If you went through with your friends, 2 of your friends, and we're going to play through the entire campaign, you could probably rip through it in much faster than that. Get it done in like 2 hours. With 3 people that know what they're doing and enjoy playing these types of games together. Once you're done there, it's all about difficulty. Ramp up the difficulty, ramp up the challenge cards, earn those attachments, unlock those core abilities, and start swapping to make your character stronger and stronger and up their battle level. But even then, that comes with a cap right now. You can only do that for so long. And honestly, the Horde mode in the game, although I appreciate it being there, it's just not compelling enough for me to want to do repeatedly. I just feel like this wasn't quite ready. There's no crossplay. It is cross-gen, so if you're playing on the PS4, you will play with PS4 and PS5 players. But PC by yourself, PlayStation by yourself, Xbox by yourself. It's not on Game Pass, so it's a $40 ask to get you into something that, if you don't like this type of gameplay and you don't have confidence in where Cold Iron is going to take the game, are they going to give me enough to make that $40 feel less bad? Or 65, 70, whatever, if you spend on the additional stuff. If you don't have that confidence, it's kind of a risky proposition right now. There's not a lot there. What is there is somewhat intriguing. I like the franchise, so that helps. But at the end of the day, am I okay with the fact that I bought it? Yes. But if you're somebody that, hey, I just like games that are like Left 4 Dead, I really don't care about Aliens, I think $40 might be a little bit too much of an ask right now. That doesn't mean it won't totally be worth that later, but it's short. There's not a ton to do as once you get through the campaign, except do it again on increased difficulty. And for some stunning reason, right now, as of the recording of this video, there is no just quick play option. So when you queue for a match, you have to hope other people are not only queuing, but are also queuing for the mission that you're on, that you've selected to queue for. There is no quick play that just randomly grabs 3 people that picked quick play and throw them into a random one of the 12 campaigns. So there were times where I just had to either sit there or decide to try and go it with bots. And the bots aren't terrible, but they're not great in certain situations. And the last mission in particular, there's a multi-wave function at the end that the bots were just really not good at. They were really not good at. There was very little cover. You had to just keep on the move, and the bots weren't great at that. That's got to be added stat. I mean, a quick play option has to be added stat. So, if you want to level up your weapons, use some challenge cards, get to those higher difficulties, and have some real challenges, cool. If you're looking for a story, this ain't it. At least not yet. Maybe with some more DLC down the road, you can come back and give it another look. It's a thumbs up for me personally. However, I can see it being a highly conditional thumbs up for many of you out there. If you like this first look, make sure you click subscribe down below, click like, give us a comment, let us know what you think of Aliens Fireteam Elite. And of course, come on over to MMOBomb.com, hit up the game page when it's up. We're still getting game pages for the non-free-to-play multiplayer games generated, so they may not be up yet. But check out all the game pages and start leaving reviews and thumbs-up reviews on different games that you want to recommend to your friends. Sign up for your own account, and you'll get recommendations based on what you play for what you might want to play next. Until next time, gang, this is Mike Burns saying stay safe, and we'll see you out on the servers.